Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to the 3rd anniversary episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I cannot believe we've been doing this for 3 years.
Same. Good Lord, how the years go by.
It's just so many episodes in a year. We were going through our Spotify recap, and it was saying we released 88 episodes this past year.
This year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Didn't even include this one. I'm Adam Diaz. That's Robin Grace. Most of you probably already know that. If this is the first time you're ever joining us for Scaryish, this episode's going to be a little different. So, Robin, go ahead and explain to the wonderful listeners what we're going to do for this episode.
I like that I'm the one that has to explain it. Okay, so since it's our 3-year anniversary, what we're going to do this episode is just kind of ask each other questions about the podcast and different things about how we go about doing it or how we feel about it. And we are drinking while we do this, so hopefully it'll be fun.
So if you have a cocktail out there, feel free to grab yours and drink along with us.
And I think between every question, we also have like this, this little app thing where that'll randomize questions. And
yeah, so what I figured we could do is, so I have some questions I've written down, Robin has some, and then I also have this obsession with D&D. So I have my D20 out, and after one of us asks a question off our list, we'll roll the D20, and if it's less than 10, we'll take a random question from this app called Pod Deck. You can also buy like a deck of cards from them that just have a bunch of random questions. And
not an ad.
It's not an ad, no. Just trying this out, and we'll just toss that out to the other person. We're also going to do some questions outside the show, nothing like crazy far outside, but just like, stuff that happened in 2020, things like that. So I think it'll be a fun time. And last year, for the 2-year anniversary, we had you folks send us just a bunch of questions. And what made me think about this particular format was I had questions that I was hoping people would ask that didn't come across. And I was like, oh, bummer. Like, I was really hoping someone would ask me about that. So I was like, well, let's just write our own questions. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good time. So do you want to ask the first question?
I'll ask the first question because my first question's kind of like general you and the podcast type stuff. Okay, so how do you describe to people what you do, like, as this, this podcast thing? How do you describe it, or how does it even come up in conversation?
It usually doesn't for me, unless someone else that knows we have a podcast brings it up. So, like, my boss knows I have a podcast, so he'll mention it to other people that I work with, and they'll be like, oh, what's your podcast like? And this is how it typically goes. I say, oh, it's a paranormal podcast, and we also do true crime stuff. And they're like, oh, that's neat. And that means they don't want to hear another thing about my stupid podcast, because everyone out there has a podcast. But if they ask me more, which they rarely do, I say, it's me and my life partner, Robin. And she tends to believe in a lot of stuff that I don't, and I'm pretty skeptical, so it's a really good dynamic, and we're also pretty mean to each other, and people seem to enjoy that. I almost always say that joke, and then people laugh. And then some people are like, oh, maybe I'll check it out, and then some people actually do, and they become pretty big supporters. So
I get really embarrassed whenever the topic of like doing a podcast comes up, because I know a lot of you folks that do listen to us are like, man, they're so cool. But I'm just like, I'm the nerdiest person, and I'm so weird. And then I'm like, by the way, I talk about murder and ghosts.
Do you want to know about Charles Manson? I have so much knowledge in my brain now.
And so I get really shy, and sometimes I really don't want to talk about it. But I'll be like, we have this podcast. It's called Scaryish. I mean, you can look it up if you want to. You don't have to.
I always tell people, like, no, you don't have to do that, because I feel like that question immediately puts pressure on whoever brought it up, that someone that's hearing it for the first time has to go look at my show. And I'm like, no. You really don't have to. If you have a story, though, feel free to send it to me, but that's about it. All right. So one quick free question before we roll the dice. What are you drinking, Robin?
So I have coffee because it's 10 o'clock right now.
It's the earliest we've recorded in so long.
It's finals week. So I'm a little bit, wired, and I just need coffee to stay awake and, try and get in some personal time, because I've been doing, on top of the school stuff, I've been doing a lot of my Etsy stuff, and because it's Christmas season,
it's also busy.
Really busy. And so I've just been doing packages and packages, and I was telling Adam earlier today too, and I've posted it on my Twitter, like, how do artists, like independent artists that run their own stores, do hundreds and hundreds of packages? Because I only had 10 and I get to hired, so I'm just Like, wow. So yeah, I have coffee, I have vodka and Kahlua and cream. So
it's a white Russian,
with coffee. Yeah.
So right on. I'm just drinking rum and coke, Captain Morgan and Coca-Cola with some big ol' ice cubes, and I have a thing of what's left over from my Coke, and then I have some extra rum to pour into my drink when it gets low. So, all right. You did the first question. You get to roll the dice the first time. If it's less than 10, go to the pod deck.
It's an 8.
Okay, so it's less than 10.
So do I just press random?
It's right there, right in front of you.
What is the one thing you'd be really, really disappointed in not being able to experience?
Probably traveling to like Europe. I've really wanted to go to Europe before. I know you really wanted to go to Japan before. So we did the big Japan trip, which was super awesome, and I'd like to do that for Europe also.
Like cross country, like taking the train from country to country?
Yeah, I don't want to just go to one country. I'd like to start in one country and spend like 2 to 3 weeks traveling around Europe. I think that would be super fun. And this goes back to you too. What's the one thing that you'd be super disappointed if you never got to experience?
Disney World.
What? You've never been to Disney World?
I've never been to Disney World.
Okay. Well, that one we should be able to rectify pretty easily.
Yeah.
So, right on.
I'd be really disappointed because I've been to Disneyland more times than I can count, but Disney World, I've never been. Yeah.
This is a good point. All right. I'm going to move on to my first question that I have written. What is your favorite podcast moment of 2020? When I wrote this question, I figured it was our podcast, but if you want to do a different podcast's moment, go for it.
I don't have a favorite podcast moment. I've been re-listening to The Tripod this year, and that's the only podcast I've listened to all year. And
no favorite moments for our podcast then?
Favorite moment for our podcast? The 150 mark.
150?
Yeah, 150 is a big milestone in episodes, I think. 150 episodes, 150 times 2 topics.
Yeah, it's 300 topics we've done.
So, yeah.
Very true. All right. For me, it's definitely the 1 million mark. Surpassing 1 million listens is big. I know I'm more of a stat whore than you. I don't actually think you look at our stats too often.
I don't, because I don't actually access them. So.
Yeah. So for me, it was the 1 million download mark. Seeing our growth continue was pretty awesome. Having Jessica Braun give us that shout out was a really big moment for us too.
That was a very
that fueled our growth and really pushed us to that 1 million mark. And all the folks that have joined us off of that recommendation has been pretty amazing. So I think that would be the best podcast moment for us in 2020. I don't really have any other stuff. I've been re-listening to stuff as well, so nothing from like the new stuff that's been coming out. It was really fun to collaborate with my friend Garrett as well on the Halloween special. So if you haven't listened to it, it is on YouTube, and I think it's really great. So you guys should go listen. Take a gander with your ears. Take an ear gander. All right, I'm gonna roll this dice and see if we get a random question or not. We don't. All right, what's your next question, Robin? All right, so my next question is, what are some common misunderstandings that people seem to bring up a lot? Because I know for me, something that we get a lot is that whenever we message someone back or reply to someone when they send us a message on Instagram or Facebook on something, they're always like, you really replied, oh my God. And it's like, we're normal people. Yeah. We look at our phones. We stay up late and just stare into the digital abyss. For me, I think the one thing that it hasn't been brought up as frequently since it was brought up on the Spooky Friends group. But someone was saying, we shouldn't put so many ads in the show. And it was before we actually had ads in the show that we were monetizing. We had ads before we had ads? Well, that's the thing is like, if you're listening on Spotify or a bunch of other platforms. They insert ads? They insert ads, not during your show, but typically in between episodes. There are casters out there who, and by casters, I mean stuff that you can download podcasts on, that do put dynamic advertising into someone else's show, which is technically illegal. They're like, oh, like, I don't like these ads. Like, podcasters are so greedy. And I've seen other podcasters have this tweeted at them. And it's like, I don't think people really understand that until you get to a certain threshold, you can't even monetize your own podcast unless you find an advertiser, like how we had a partnership with Modern Physics at first. It's because I personally know the owner of Modern Physics, you know? Aside from that, anyone that I reached out to were like, hey, did you want to advertise on our show? It was silence, because they all work with firms who work through people that you have to sign up with. And to sign up with them, it's like, okay, what's your downloads per month? What's your 6-week mark? And it's all these statistics that you have to meet just to meet a threshold for them to be like, we're going to give you 18% of any money that we make from an advertisement running on your show. So when people say like, oh, there's so many ads, I hate how greedy podcasters are. it's not the podcasters, it's not that podcast, it's the platform you're listening on almost always. So,
and we try our best not to overwhelm you folks with the ads that we do put in.
We could put in like 3 times the amount of ads, and I'm like, it's just too much. It's too many ads, and we almost switched platforms this year.
Because they wanted us to add more ads.
They want us to at least double our ads minimum for a 60-minute episode, and anything that went over 60, they want us to almost triple our ads. And so we were like, we're just not going to do that. We're going to find another platform. And we wound up not having to, because so many people that were on that platform,
probably complained.
They said, we're just going to switch platforms. And they're like, all right, we're not going to put that on there. But if you want to optimize your shows, here's how you can do it. And it was all the instructions about, you have to do this or we're going to kick you off, with the vicious language taken out. Like, so you could do this if you'd like to make more money, which is really just, we would like to make 82% more off of your show for each ad that runs. Because I'm pretty sure 18% is around what you actually make off of those ads. So
cool.
But yeah, I think that's the one for me that when I see it, like, my blood doesn't boil so much as much as I just sort of get annoyed. Like, if you only knew how much work goes into this, and you said it the best though, man. We make a pittance.
Yeah,
off
we
of this
make
thing.
pittance. And that's why Adam has a full-time job. I have my part-time job, and I'm still going to school to get an engineering license, because we don't make money off of doing the show. I hope everybody knows that this is legitimately a hobby for us.
It's a labor of love.
It's something that we just do in our, whatever time that we can scrounge.
You're going to say free time, but literally we steal time away from all of our other stuff to do this show too.
Yeah, and we just want you to know how much we love the podcast and everything, and so we do it because we love it.
It's why at the end of every episode I say, like, how much, I think I say it so much people don't think I'm being sincere, but how much we appreciate the feedback we get and the support we get. Because if I were to lose my job and Robin were to not have any other source of income, and we relied solely on the podcast,
we'd be fucked.
We'd be homeless. We'd be homeless. We wouldn't be able to pay any bills. So, like, our Patreon helps us a lot. The single donations we get, those help us. Like, when we stream live, people send us money and stuff like that. But realistically, it's like, we invest so much of that back into the podcast for production value. The reason the podcast has gotten better is because people have helped us out like that.
Yeah, and we really couldn't be here without you folks. So there's another insert for we love you.
We absolutely if we could do this for a living, we absolutely would.
Oh, yeah, I would.
We totally would.
God, I would.
But it's like trying to balance out something that you're trying to put as much effort into as if you were doing it for a living, while still having a full-time job is it's exhausting. So,
all right, my turn to roll.
Yeah, roll the dice.
Okay, it is a 5.
Yep.
Yeah, that dice is weird.
That is a weird dice.
What is the one thing? Oh no, I've already read that one. If you could be a personal assistant to anyone, who would it be?
That's a really good question, actually. Because we're talking podcast stuff, the first name that comes to my mind is probably Jesse Thorne, because he's the owner of Maximum Fun Network.
Oh.
And I would just pick his brain constantly, like, here's your coffee. How did you monetize other people's podcasts and get them to love you at the same time? Because it's crazy what that guy has done. And I know that it probably wasn't going to be so big if Adventure Zone didn't become just the biggest fucking success for a few years. And it still is. It's completely changed those guys' lives. But yeah, I think that's who it would be for me. How about you?
That's really hard for me, because I just want to pick some super hot celebrity.
I was going to say, you're going to pick someone you want to sleep with. I would like to be David Tennant's personal ball washer. Oh, God. Only using my tongue.
No, but it'd be cool to be able to sit around and hang out with this person, because you're their personal assistant, so you're near them all the time and kind of get to see what they're actually like. There's so many Korean actors and singers and stuff like that that I would love to hang out with, and I think it'd be really cool. But
right on.
Yeah, I would totally pick a celebrity. I'm not even that intellectual person who's like Albert Einstein.
Right.
No, I'm that stupid fangirl person who's like, hot celebrity, please.
Celebrity that I could steal the locks of hair from and just put them in a baggie and keep them forever.
Yeah, I'm on a Lee Min-ho train right now. I'm a hoe from
You're a fucking Lee Min-ho. All right, moving on from that thirsting. What is your favorite moment of 2020 not related to the podcast? I mean, 2020 has been a shit show, which I think is like why we're drinking right now. But yeah, for 2020, think back the entire year, not podcast related. What's a moment where you're like, that was actually pretty good?
I just want to probably just the fact that I've been able to focus on my Etsy shop and merchandising and creating more art content, because while I was laid off, I did have more time to focus on school, thankfully. Oh my gosh, thankfully. And drawing more. There was a point during quarantine where I was able to draw a lot of new fan art, like every other day or something like that, you know? And I would stay up till like 4 a.m. drawing these characters, and now I can't do that. Me staying up till 4 a.m. is like, I need to rest and relax and play video games or something, you know?
Unwind and do something that's not demanding. Right on. I can see that. For me, I think it was having the balls to walk out of my job, because it was a horrible place, and just being like, you guys are awful human beings, and you run an awful company, and you do and say awful things that are sometimes illegal, and I'm not going to be a part of this anymore.
This year has been so long that I forgot
that happened this year. I did too. And starting my new job, it's like I walked out and the universe was like, all right, good for you. And they gave me a job working for a video game company.
And now you work in a company in an industry that you actually want to be in.
I've always wanted to be in it, you know, and it's definitely a blessing. And it was risky in my exit interview that they asked me, like, how bad are things, you know, in your department? And I said, I'm voluntarily quitting my job and not having health insurance during a pandemic. Like, what does that tell you? And so, of course, they didn't do anything. Like, everyone there that decided that they were going to try and stay there and make things better has either been fired or has had a mental breakdown at this point, or has been exposed to COVID-19 like 3 or 4 times. So
that's insane.
It's been crazy for those folks, and I still text a lot of them and try and get them jobs where I'm at right now. So
nice.
I think that for me was a defining moment of 2020.
Speaking of healthcare, if you folks have FSA money that's sitting there in your account and it doesn't roll over, you better spend it. Most of it's not going to
roll over.
Go spend it right now. You need to spend that FSA
Robin
cash.
just took our FSA and went on a glasses shopping spree.
So we have so much money in our FSA, and it expires in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or something like that at the end of the year.
The 31st, yeah.
And we're not spending... When Adam got laid off from Tesla... we had an FSA card that we had to spend.
It was like, hey, you have 9 days to spend $2,000.
And we bought Band-Aids.
We bought like medical equipment. We have something that can like look in your ears. We were just looking for things to spend it on because we couldn't get appointments to spend it on actual health care.
Wasn't that like last year or the year before last year?
2017 or 2018. It was 2018 because we were doing the podcast when that happened.
And it's only been 2 years, so we can't do that again. We still have all the stuff from last time. So I was like, I'm getting me some glasses.
We still have so many Band-Aids. So. All right, that was my question. Okay. I'm going to roll the dice. It's a 5. All right. Do you have anything autographed by a celebrity?
Yes. I think I have multiple things. But I don't know if they're considered a celebrity because
R.A. Salvatore is a celebrity.
Salvatore is it
sure,
Salvatore?
I don't know.
I think it's Salvatore. I call him R.A. Salvatore, but he wrote some of my favorite books. They're like the Drizzt Do'Urden books, and they're about a dark elf, and they're really good.
Nerd.
But Adam, when we first started dating, I think the first month we were dating.
First month. We started dating right before Valentine's Day, which was like a tactical error on my part.
He went out and bought me a whole bunch of stuff signed by R.A. Salvatore, and so I have all of that in a glass case. I have a drawing, a custom drawing for you, Adam, that I had made by what is his name? Jamie Terrell or something. He is a comic book artist, and he drew Kerrigan from StarCraft for Adam. I had him. Is
that something you have, or is that something I have?
That's something you have, but I got that done for you. And I have a lot of artist signed things. I buy a lot of art prints from artists. I have my sister has had movies signed by celebrities that I've been in line for to get it signed for her. But, oh man, I'm trying to think of what else I have signed. I do. The short answer is yes, I do.
Okay, cool. I do. I have the thing that Robin got for me, aforementioned Kerrigan. And I have the card that we got in the mail from Jay Valor, which is a Frieza trading card signed by the voice actor who did Frieza, which was pretty awesome to get. I've watched so much Dragon Ball Z in my life, so it was really cool to see that. But yeah, mine is a much shorter answer. All right, that is the pod deck question. Go ahead and move into your next one.
Alrighty. Man, I have a lot of stuff signed by R.A. Salvatore because one of his newer books, too, I got signed by him, too. Dang, we nerds. Alrighty. What makes you feel inspired and kind of gets your brain juices flowing for when we do topic episodes? Because I know like we were saying earlier, we've done 300 topics, over 300 topics, you know? So what kind of gets you motivated or inspired or like, I have a topic. This is what I'm doing, you know? Because I know you had the, I guess, aliens month of October.
Extraterrestrial October.
And so that's something that you were inspired to do, right?
Yeah.
So what triggers you?
For me, it's usually stuff that I'm like genuinely interested in or I'm afraid of, or I want to know whether or not it's real. So even if I'm like skeptical, like when it came to Bigfoot, saying like I don't believe in Bigfoot, I think Bigfoot's probably a conspiracy. Researching it was something I absolutely wanted to do. I reserved that topic. Some of the bigger stuff that requires a ton of research inspires me, but it winds up being something where I don't have enough time to cover it quite yet, and I wind up putting those off. And honestly, a lot of weeks I am looking for inspiration, and I find that a lot of times from stuff that's been suggested to us by the listeners, because they've heard of it, and like reading what they say about it and how excited they are and how hopeful they are that we cover it. I'm like, okay, cool. And 90 to 95% of the time, I'm like, yep, this is a topic. Sometimes people have heard of an incident and they really want to learn more. And then I look into it and I'm like, oh, there's like 2 articles and they're quoting each other.
Yeah.
So those times stink. But it's sometimes kind of hard, to be honest with you. I mean, after covering 300, it's like, I get nervous almost every Monday. Like, I don't know what I'm going to cover. So I try and find a topic before that, or at least start looking at our doc that we have, where it's like, maybe I'll have to stay up all night and research the Illuminati finally. But there's a lot of times where I'm just like, man, I need to find something, and I search for inspiration from our listener base. So what about you?
I'm not a big fan of true crime. don't.
She's not a fan
I'm
of
not
crime.
a fan of crime, but I love learning about true crime. And anytime I'm watching a show or a documentary or something like that, I'm like, man, that is absolutely crazy, and I want to learn more. So sometimes the topics that I do are inspired by that. Sometimes it's say I'm really curious about cults. So for a while there, every couple weeks, I'd be like, this is a cult I'm doing. This is a cult I'm doing. And
I really like covering cults. I think they're fascinating.
There is a couple that I want to cover, but they're very controversial. And that's another thing that we try to steer away from is controversial topics too. So when the time comes around where I actually cover those things, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, there's things that I really want to do that are controversial, and that's why I haven't covered them yet. But it's just stuff that I'm into at the time that I get inspired by. Like, say I'm into trains one week, and so I type in haunted trains.
Right.
It's really, really random stuff like that. Like, say I watch a TV show or a movie, like fucking the Royal Prince or the Christmas Prince, right? Castles. Haunted castles.
Wow. This is all starting to make sense now. Your viewing habits are definitely influencing your topics.
Yeah.
As an aside, too, this isn't even on my list, but I think I just want to put this out there. Like, we've had a lot of folks reach out to us and say, like, hey, how do I start a podcast? Or can you help walk me through this process? I think I've helped at this point after, just from people that listen to the show that have reached out, probably around 10 people who've reached out wanting to start their own podcast and letting them know, like, hey, like, how serious are you about it? Because, you know, there's a lot that I can tell you about it that'll make things go a lot smoother. And just about everyone that's ever reached out was taking it super seriously. And we had someone reach out who did start their own show because they covered a controversial topic on their show and they got shit on really, really hard. And they got some really visceral reaction that was very nasty. And they say, like, how do you deal with that? And what I basically said is me and Robin made the conscious decision at the beginning of the show is that we wanted this to be a gathering space for people that have similar experiences from different walks of life. And I think the world right now is so incredibly divided, and there's so many different ways that you could just decide not to listen to something someone has to say based off of some opinion or belief that they have. And rather than us confront certain topics directly because they are so controversial, we let what our personal beliefs show through the show. I think we were one of the first shows that I know of that said, send us your pronouns, you know, back in 2018.
Yeah.
We're like, send us your pronouns because we care. And it's like, we're not going out of our way to talk about that topic.
But we're just a very inclusive, I want to be a very inclusive community, and I don't want to alienate anybody. And I don't know if we've brought it up before, but in our old podcast, Adam would be like, boys and girls or something like
I'd
that.
say hello, boys and girls.
Yeah, and I'd be like, yeah, dog, no.
It's like some people don't identify that way. And I honestly had no clue. I was like, oh, well, what should I say then? You know, so when we started this one, we changed it up, obviously. And I just think it's something where we show who we are through our actions and through the things that we represent. We don't have to say, like, we're having a topic today about our values, you know, and then we tell you everything that we believe and everywhere we align so that everyone could side with us or side against us. Is like, no, dude, like, here are the things we believe in, which is being decent and being kind and being inclusive. And
I hopefully that shows.
Yeah.
So
and
hopefully...
if it doesn't, then that sucks. But I think it does, because I think that's why folks reach out to us and tell us that they appreciate what we do. You know, there's a lot of spooky podcasts out there people can listen to, but I think because we've done a fairly decent job of trying to maintain control of those things, that it's worked out fairly well. So, okay, that was your question. I veered off topic a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say that I don't even remember what question that stemmed from.
I blame the rum, but go ahead and roll that dice.
Is it my turn again?
Yep, you just read a question.
Oh, 8.
Wow, we're getting a lot below 10.
The oddest job you ever took to earn a buck.
I sold fireworks for like 11 days to make $1,000 for a vacation I wanted to go on. I think that would probably be the weirdest one, because I was like, I have no idea what any of this shit is. She's like, just lie. Like, anyone that comes in, just tell them, like, oh yeah, what are you looking for? Something that makes a loud noise? Oh yeah, that right there, the most expensive thing.
I'm trying to think of an odd job that I've ever had, but I don't know. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Weren't you like an assistant at that production company that your sister worked at for like 2 weeks?
No, I was there for 1 day. I worked there for 1 day. You want to know how much money I fucking made?
Yeah.
Bank. That shit is bomb. If you can work at like some acting studio production company, holy crap. I worked there for 1 day, and it was the fattest paycheck I've ever made in 1 day. When I say fat paycheck, I'm like, I made over $500 in 1 day.
That's insane. It's
insane. Holy fudge. But yeah, maybe that is the weirdest job, but it was so boring. It was just, I don't think it was weird.
You can pay me $500 a day to be boring. Anyone out there with money to spare, I would gladly do that.
Man, the first time I ever got a job was when I was 18. And I worked at Borders when it was open. I'm old, okay, I'm 30. But Borders used to be open and I worked there. I became, like one of the key holders, one of the management there. And then I got a job at GameStop and I became the store manager there. You know what I mean? I had basic bitch jobs.
That's why I went with that one, because it's the only one I think of that is like kind of off the beaten track.
Yeah.
It wasn't like retail.
I've always done retail. I worked in a sushi restaurant. That was great. Sushi for your lunch. Holy crap. That was awesome.
Free sushi too, right?
Free. Yeah. I worked at front desk at a timeshare. That was also a bank job too. If you can get into a hotel, oh my gosh, I made so much money. But the thing is, I had these jobs where you could make money. And I think, side note here, way apart from the question, is even though this job makes a lot of money, I think it's important to know what you want to do, because I was starting to get comfortable in that position of like, man, I make money, I can do whatever I want, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to deal with snooty rich people talking shit and treating me like crap all day. And it's funny because I've had when I worked there were so many people that were like, I own a Kia dealership. What can you do for me? I'm like, nothing. You want keys to your room? I can get you those. Like,
you would do stuff for people who were actually nice.
I would, yeah. There were people that were just like, hi, I'm here just celebrating, my kid like graduating college or whatever. And then I'd send them up like a free tray of cookies or something like that. You know what I mean? And then they'd come down and they'd be the most thankful people. And then you have the people that are just entitled. And so anyway, I didn't want to deal with that anymore. And I think it's important that you folks, everybody out there, kind of tries their hardest to live your dream, be who you want to be, and don't just get stuck in a situation where it's like, well, I make enough to live now, It's
easy to get stuck in those situations because it's easier. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to live your dream. It's very hard to say like, hey, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to give it a shot, because you have to go out of your way.
You got to shoot your shot.
Wow. So, and not to, I've been saying for a long time, like, if you're going through hell, keep going. That's always been my model.
You got to keep on creeping on.
And I shortened it to keep going, and our thing is keep on creeping on. But, like, sincerely, I think what that stems from is, like, if you want something, you should try to do it, and you have to understand you are going to fail. And you are going to fail every single time. until you succeed. And then even after you succeed, you're going to fail some more. So it's like, you can't always be afraid of failure because it is the one thing that you will absolutely deal with if you want to chase your dream. And it's just how you deal with that. So, and I think that's why I've watched so much Try Guys lately, is because so much of their content is like, this is our second chance because we're leaving our jobs and starting on our own. And guess what? It's really fucking easy to do with like 10 million subscribers. So, all right, We're way off the beaten path. It's my turn now. Getting back to podcast related stuff. Since we're at 156 episodes, including this one now, what are your top 3 favorite episodes?
All right.
I gave her this question in advance because I didn't want to have her try and come up with them off the top of her head.
All right. So my favorite episode that I've ever done, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. And it's going to be time travel. When I covered time travel, because it is actually a topic that I'm incredibly interested in. I love the idea of how time works. And I know I bring it up a lot, and the mix of time and spirituality and how that, ghosts and stuff kind of intermingle with time.
Time scars, stuff like that.
And it's funny because I just finished watching King Eternal Monarch on Netflix.
You so much for bringing this shit up.
And it's all about time travel, like travel.
All she wants to do is talk about this fucking drama that she just watched.
Oh my god, it's so good, dude. I was crying in bed yesterday watching it. It was,
till 5 a.m.
It's time travel and stuff like that just is absolutely interesting to me and absolutely intrigues me. And I think that is my favorite topic because it's just something that the reason why it's one of my first topics is because it's something that I actually am into.
I did that too with my favorite topics. We shot our load pretty quickly on this show. So, all right, what's your second?
And then my second one's the Paranormal Games episode series that
Those
I do.
Are really good.
So the paranormal games that I cover, I just think are, one, incredibly scary because I would never, like the elevator game, I would never climb into an elevator.
One of our listeners tried that. I'm pretty sure it was on her honeymoon too.
Was it? It's the same one that went to McDonald's, right? It was like, can I get some McKnowledge nuggets?
Yeah, that's her. The ballsiest listener we have. I'll say
hell
that out
yeah.
there.
And then the last one for me is Haunted Disney, because Disney, I mean, come on.
That's good.
I didn't realize how there were some things that I already knew going into that episode. And then there were things that I found out while researching, and I was like, this is freaking cool. So yeah, I think Haunted Disney was pretty neat for me.
Right on. It's really hard for me to nail down a top 3 because sometimes I really, really like my topics. And as a side note, I didn't put anything on here about things that really bother me with our show, but sometimes we have an episode that comes out and I'm like, we fucking crushed that. That was a great episode. Like, our research was on point. We were hilarious. We had a really good time. And because I am a stat whore, I checked the numbers and they're like, our worst performing episodes. And I'm like, damn, man, like, what the fuck?
Sometimes
you fart into a microphone for an hour and you just get like 10,000 downloads. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell these people want.
Sometimes people don't want us to sound smart. They just want us to be dumb.
They're like, whatever. I don't want to hear anything about this. But for me, yeah, these are the 3 that definitely came to mind when I was thinking about this. Number 1 is episode 21, which I mention a lot, which is the possession in Massachusetts. And that's mainly because of all the stuff that I found on the internet and all the books that I was finding in the archive. They usually ended at a certain spot. And when I was just deep diving into a bunch of research and realizing, I think because it was episode 21, it was still fairly early on, and realizing how much research I could actually do sitting from my home computer, it really sort of astounded me how deep I got and how I realized there was a lot extra that was not talked about on all these websites because they quoted a book written after something that they considered to be like, and happily ever after. And if you haven't listened to episode 21, I would recommend listening to it because it wasn't happily ever after. It was tragically ever after. And it was shocking. I sat at my computer just dumbfounded, and it was absolutely true because it came from like obituaries and police reports that I was able to locate. And that was a little bit mind blowing for me. So that's my number 1. Number 2 for me is the Charles Manson series, episodes 132 to 134. Because it's the most research I've ever done in my entire life. It's probably the hardest thing I've worked on since I was in college.
We got to get into H.H. Holmes.
Oh my God. Like, there's so many topics out there that are going to be a ton of work, and I think I've only covered a couple of them, and Charles Manson was one of those. And it was something where I just sat down and said, like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to fucking do it. And I'm not going to be afraid of it, and I have to do it my way, which means that it's going to be long-winded, but it's going to be incredibly detailed, and hopefully it'll also be interesting. And it was 3 full topics that took up so much time, and I'm incredibly proud of it. And my third one...
I'm incredibly proud of you.
Oh, thank you. My third one is The Haunting of Carolina Street.
Which is the one about your dad.
Episode 47, yeah, which is my dad's story, my dad's family story. And it was pretty cathartic for me because I don't talk to a lot of them anymore. And it's something that shaped their lives pretty significantly. And yeah, there's a lot of trauma on my dad's side of the family. And a lot of it points back to this. And I will say that I mentioned this episode to him, and I don't think he's heard our show, mainly because he's technologically challenged rather than he's not supportive. But there was a day that we had a really serious talk because some folks in my family have passed away this year, and some folks are having a really hard time of it. And so we sat down. I think it was a moment for him where he looked at me. He's like, my son is 35, and he doesn't know some of the more defining moments of my life. And he told me even more stuff that happened in that house.
Wow.
That was just...
terrifying?
It wasn't even terrifying. It was just so hard to hear because I realized, like, that happened to you when you were 14, you know? So that one holds a significant and special place in my heart because it was so deeply ingrained to who my dad and my dad's family were growing up. And I think it makes you kind of understand.
I think my favorite episode of yours is the Spanish flu episode because... not only is it educational, but it is absolutely triggering in this day and age. And we have had so much feedback on that Spanish flu episode.
Especially since COVID-19
I've had multiple family members bring up that episode because it is incredibly educational. I think it's really interesting. And people other than family, obviously, have also brought it up. And it's just something that really does affect people. And I think it's a really good episode.
Thank you.
Good job.
My favorite of yours, and I don't have one specifically, but it's any cult you've ever covered. Because it's so much detail and so much information. And they're absolutely fucking terrifying.
Have I done the Jonestown one yet?
I don't know if you've done Jonestown yet. You've done a lot, but you haven't done a ton.
I just have watched so many documentaries and stuff on it.
It's just
so I'm like,
so crazy to me to hear about these people who are brainwashed. And it's like, if you're talking to someone who's charismatic that says the things you want to hear, you cannot silence the voice in your head of, is this person full of shit?
When you're down in the dumps, too, and you really don't have any other options.
They prey on people like that. And it's like, I just see so frequently in people that get gaslighted or get convinced to follow a Pied Piper. And it can be on a small scale, in like a local town, like just someone who's talking shit about you, and for some reason your friends believe it. And you're like, how could you trust that person just because they're charismatic, you know? And it is always fascinating to me when people suspend their reason and their logic and their decency just so that they can say that the person that they listen to is correct. And it's so maddening to hear about these people that are like, yeah, I decided to dedicate my life to this and give all my money to it. And then sometimes it's like, and then they drank some Kool-Aid and died so they could get on a rocket ship and go and be an alien in the stars with these people. And then that leader's like, I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. I'm not fucking crazy.
Footnote, go back to listen to the Charles Manson episodes. Those are good.
It's just baffling to me that people have this power over other people, and I just don't understand it. And it's kind of scary. So, okay, that was my question. Top 3 episodes.
All right, roll.
Rolling the dice.
One.
It's
you
a
botched.
one. I botched.
Jesus. Okay.
Have you ever had anything stolen? If so, what was it? So stolen from you.
I've had my wallet stolen when I worked at the sushi restaurant. We did not have very secure places to put our bags. And what we did was, I think we put it was either behind the cash or like we call it the cash wrap, behind the cash register, in a cabinet underneath, right? Or it was like in a cabinet that was off by the bathrooms or something like that. It was not secure whatsoever.
You had something way bigger stolen from you too when we first started dating.
Oh shit, I had my car stolen too. That was fucking crazy.
They stole it, they drag raced it, they crashed it.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, that was a nightmare. Okay, so when my wallet got stolen, they went across the street, bought surfboard and a bunch of surfing gear. I lived in Hawaii, so that's not it's not surprising. Unsurprising cook. I've drank too much. Yeah, it wasn't surprising that they went across the street to buy surf gear. I did get all that money back because it was obviously not me. But they threw all my shit, all my cards, ID, all that stuff into a bush, and some not a customer, but someone,
a passerby,
came and brought all my those cards and stuff back. Not all of it, obviously, because they probably chucked a bunch. But I did get some of it back, which is nice. And, so yeah, that was my first ever incident of somebody stealing something like that from me. Since then, I have had my purse stolen. I've had my car stolen and stuff like that. But that was my first. And my car, oh my god, when my car got stolen, holy shit. I came downstairs to go to work and my car was gone. And I was like, do you remember where I parked the car? He's like, it should be right there.
I was like, it was right fucking there.
And
I, know
I was
exactly
like,
where you
oh
parked
my
your car.
sweet Jesus. And so my car was gone. It was a whole freaking thing. They didn't find my car for weeks.
It was like 2 days before they were going to total it out.
Yeah, they were going to total my car and they found it. And I went to see it at, no, they towed my car from that location because I couldn't make it there. So they towed my car and they lost it. They
like,
lost
weeks
my
went
car
by and
for
we're like,
2 weeks.
We're like, how can she come see the car? And they're like, here's the fucking deal. Like,
they lost my car.
We lost the car, okay?
And so apparently the tow truck had towed it to the wrong place. And so it was sitting there and no one had any idea why this car is sitting there. And so they finally took my car to the right place and I went and checked it out and it was so weird. There's like yellow paint in the back seat. It had been crashed multiple times. It was just a freaking nightmare. I have, an Old Republic sticker on the back of my car and
a TARDIS sticker.
No, it's a Bad Wolf sticker.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and a Doctor Who sticker. They scraped the crap out of those stickers to try and get it off the car. Instead of peeling it off, they're stickers, bud. Just peel it off, you fucking moron. But they scraped the heck out of the trunk, like trying to get it off.
They scraped the paint off, right?
They scraped the entire... I'm like, you're an idiot. But, no, yeah, I got my car back. And then I got into an accident after they fixed the car.
Days later.
Days after
Not
I got
her
my
fault.
car back.
Someone ran a stop sign.
Yeah, someone ran a
and
stop
T-boned her.
sign. It was stupid. But, I still have that car. That car's sitting in the driveway.
Driveway. Just waiting to get traded in.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of it right now. It's actually, I think the battery's dead. But that
we'll
car,
figure it out.
that car's been through a lot. It's, yeah, no, I have had my car stolen. That was a freaking crazy, crazy thing. Yeah. How about you? What have you had stolen?
I mean,
Your heart?
I was gonna say, he stole my joke, but I've had small stuff stolen. I've had like games stolen from me when I was a kid. Like my best friend Lee stole my Mech Warrior 2. He never
God
gave
damn
it back.
it, Lee.
Fucking Lee. He did that a lot. It's funny too because he messaged me. He's like, "Have you played the new Spider-Man?" I'm like, "Oh, do you mean Spider-Man 2 that you stole from Joe's little brother back in like 8th grade?"
Oh my god.
So yeah. When I lived in the bad part of town back in my hometown, which wasn't like super bad, it just was not a good part of town. It was definitely run down. Someone took my window air conditioner. They ripped it out of the window. They broke the frame of the window, and then they snuck in and stole my Xbox. And I usually slept on my couch downstairs. It's like the one night I'm like, I'll go sleep in my bed. And they broke in and stole shit. And I was just like, God damn it. Aside from that, like most of the theft that's happened in my life has been fairly petty or belonging to the store I was working at. And then you showed up back in 2013 and stole my heart.
Aw, yeah, I stole your joke for
You
sure.
suck. Okay.
All right, my turn to read one of my questions. So, or no, that's your question again, but I'll read it anyway. What is your most fake/cheesy episode topic that you've ever done?
So for me, there's a few. So Lizardman of South Carolina, I'll put in the cheesy category because I feel like this one's clearly fake, but they weren't trying to like really freak people the fuck out. I think something happened where it was like a crocodile or an alligator or whatever, like snuck up and like grabbed someone's fucking tire, like ripped apart their bumper or some shit. And then it just like took on a life of its own and like, this is gold. Like start making up a festival. Like we're going to sell shit.
All right.
So that one, every time I think of that one, I roll my eyes. The Simpsons prophecies. Those are ones where I was like, this is fake. Like, this is people trying to sensationalize something for news. It's like, and when I broke those down, it's like, this is social commentary that happened when something happened back then that now we look back at and we're like, how did they predict that would happen in the future? It's like, no, idiots. It just happened again. Like, it didn't happen for the first time now, and The Simpsons predicted it 20 years ago. There's a couple of them that are kind of creepy. I went over those, and I called out who the time travelers are. They're still yet to contact me. And I think the one that I absolutely thought, to the point where I commented to you, like, this is fake, man. People are going to hate this, was the Black-Eyed Children episode, which has been one of the most responded to episodes of all time for us.
It is. That's
that people
a real
100% were fucking terrified of. And I was like, well, this sounds so skeptical, and I cover it in the episode, but the idea of the Black-Eyed Children is so fucking scary that so many people reached out and like, after I heard that episode, I had fucking nightmares. Like, I heard someone knock on my door. Like, legitimately, people who listened to that episode could have had a stranded child come to their house at 3 a.m. crying, knocking on their door like, help me. And I've been like, fuck off, demon. Like, it was it affected the audience in a way that I did not anticipate. So those are some for me. What about for you?
Mine is the Russian sleep experiment. And I know it's supposed to be like a creepypasta, which is why it's fake. But there were people that were like,
Multiple
"No, dude,
people.
this is real." I'm like, "No, dude, no."
Yeah, and then someone tried to be like, if it was real, they'd make a creepypasta about it so that you would think that it was fake. It's like,
It's
so fake.
It is based on experiments. Absolutely. There are real experiments in, real life that have been performed on people, whether that be publicly or secretive, like, staring at goats. What was that one?
The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of it.
I want to say PK Thunder. It's not PK
Thunder. MK Ultra.
Yes. PK Thunder.
Is that Ness?
Yes.
Fucking idiot. Ness from Mother
God.
or Earthbound, I'm pretty sure.
Know, man.
Which everyone knows him from Smash Brothers. But
yeah,
whatever.
it's PK Fire. Okay. No, yeah. So, yeah, the MK Ultra stuff. I think that's definitely stems from that. There's a lot of science experiments that are really fucked up. I think one of these episodes I'm going to do like some of the worst science experiments that have been performed.
Smart.
But yeah, no, when I was doing that topic, I was like, I'm just going to read this story, this Russian sleep experiment story, because it is a creepy story. Absolutely, it is creepy, but it is fake as fuck. And
some people just want to believe, man. They want to believe so hard.
The truth is out there. I really do enjoy the episode because it is a creepy topic. I think the idea behind the Russian sleep experiment is super duper creepy. It's just one of those that are super creepy pasta.
Yeah.
So
right. As I stir this stick before we go to the pod deck, I do want to say this, like, just for posterity's sake. There's a lot of topics we choose not to cover, which are usually conspiracy theory related.
Why are you stirring it? I can hear the clinking while you're talking.
I literally said out loud on the show I was going to stir my stuff while I said this.
Okay.
But like I was saying, there's a lot of topics we avoid, and they tend to be conspiracy theories. And it's primarily always under 10. It's primarily because, not because we're not fascinated by it or they wouldn't make for a good topic. It's because of how people have visceral reactions to things that they have so deeply bought into that we're just like, this is not worth the trouble to cover, because people get so fucking vicious sometimes, and we're like, we'll have to wait for a time where we're like, all right, go ahead, like, yell at me for saying that this thing that's almost certainly fake is almost certainly fake, and people are just so deeply bought into it. I got a bunch of that shit for Charles Manson. I got a bunch of that shit for what was the name of the Mandela effect?
Oh, yes, the Mandela effect.
People are like, no, it is more likely there's a parallel universe that overlap with our universe and replace my memories than I didn't remember something right. It's like, or you just didn't remember something right. It blew me away how many people reached out to basically be like, Adam, fuck you. So yeah, I just want to put that out there. All right, Robin rolled below a 10, so let's see if we can get a question up here. We're moving into the paranormal pod deck now.
What do you think ghosts do when they are not interacting with the living?
Hopefully listen to Scaryish. It's got to be their favorite show. Hopefully someone out there plays it out loud on the speakers, not in their earbuds, so they can listen.
I don't think they do anything at all. I think what they really actually do is go through the motions. And it's not that they're out there to do things specifically. I think the scratching and stuff like that is not ghosts. I think that's more demonic activity. I think ghosts, spirits, kind of, like I said, go through the motions, and they're just walking around like zombies doing what they do, you know? I don't think they have actual activities.
I think the best way I think of it is in the second season of Haunting, The Haunting of Bly Manor, when it goes over the house assistants episode. I don't want to give out too many spoilers. If you haven't watched the second season yet, skip ahead 30 seconds. But it's the assistants, the home. I forget. I think she's called the housekeeper, but I don't think that's the actual name of it. But it's basically like her skipping from scene to scene to scene to scene,
yeah,
and circling back through repeatedly.
Yeah.
And I think I was like, I really feel like purgatory or an afterlife where you haven't moved on properly. This kind of feels like that, where you can get stuck in it if you're in denial enough or you live too much in that moment because you don't want to let it go. So maybe something like that. But all right, I think it's your turn. No, you stole my question. That's right. Okay. Which topic, while you were researching it, scared you the most?
Okay, so it's probably going to be between the haunted painting that I did.
That one was creepy as shit.
And the Black Dahlia, and they're in two completely different categories. One's true crime, and one is obviously, paranormal-y. Scary-ish, if whatever. We've been drinking. And
it's not May, it's December.
And
that was a good joke.
The Black Dahlia is scary because it is just such a brutal murder and display of a body. And it is absolutely terrifying that that could happen to anybody, you know? And I'm sure it has, not in that same way, but just as brutal of a murder. And I think that's the scariest part of it, is that I could be walking down the street, get kidnapped, someone murders me, you know? And then the haunted painting thing, while I was researching it, I was literally terrified to look at this painting. And I was trying to send pictures to Adam to post on Instagram. And it's just something that I really tried to avoid it as much as possible.
She wasn't talking about it, so I'm like, what the fuck is this stupid picture? And she's over there like so scared of it. I'm like, no, whatever.
And it was just reading it, I was getting scared and literally getting chills. And yeah, it's probably one of my scarier topics I've ever covered personally.
Chills.
Literal chills.
For me, mine was episode 60, 61, 59, right around there, when I covered The Exorcist. I covered the release of The Exorcist, the haunted Hollywood of it, like the movie. And then the next episode, I covered the true story behind The Exorcist, and the actual person who the film is based off of. And doing that research, it was a really deep dive. And so much of it was so unlike any other possession I've ever seen. Because I always go into it, because I have, a schizophrenic brother. I go into it like it's most likely a mental illness that's been dealt with through various different ways. That's, resulted in this being really terrifying for all the people involved. And as I went through it, I was like, this isn't like any of those. It is so uniquely different in such a horrifying way, to the point where when I was reading the journal of the priests who were performing the exorcisms, I had to turn the hallway light on. I was like, I don't even want to look out the door and see how dark the hallway is right now. It freaked me the fuck out. I was like, this is so fucking scary. And I had nightmares, like sincere nightmares, for like the next week.
There were episodes after we covered them that you were getting like night terrors or whatever, or like seeing stuff,
night terrors,
like sleep paralysis or something.
I had one sleep paralysis incident where I saw something, but that was not related to The Exorcist.
Oh, okay.
It's because we had so many sleep paralysis emails from the viewers and listeners that you planted that shit in my head, y'all. So
I think it's funny because I move around on the bed a lot. Maybe
She's a monster.
I've been keeping you from having sleep paralysis because
I have disturbed sleep. I do not rest peacefully. So yeah, for me, it was The Exorcist without a doubt.
Yeah, that was a scary one because all that stuff was like legit. Those things happen.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to roll this dice. All right, I got a 15. We can move on. Your next question.
Your next question is, what was...
You're stealing my next question.
What was the hardest part of 2020? Dirty Money 2020.
Dirty Money 2020. Not being able to use that line more often. No, 2020 has been rough, man. Like, outside the podcast in general, it's just been a hard year for everyone involved. We've had a lot go on with our families, and I won't speak to your stuff because you've had stuff. And
oh shit,
yeah. I don't want to speak to it because I don't want to be insensitive, and two, I don't want to steal your answer. It's just been a really hard year. Moving my dad was incredibly difficult. He had a back surgery at the beginning of October. He had to move out of his place by like October 28th, and the first place we got him to was horrible. And like, we got off the moving truck and they didn't have the place ready. They didn't have the locks changed. There was graffiti all over the building. Like, these people were fraudsters, and we basically had to wait for an hour and a half for them to throw us off the property when we were asking them for the keys, because they said like we were awful. And I just had it up to here with it. And I was just like, I'm just going to call the Better Business Bureau and let them know that you're not allowing a Vietnam veteran who signed a lease to move in on his move-in day because you're a psychopath. And having to get him into a hotel on the spot and take all this stuff that we were just getting ready to unload and put it into a storage locker for a month.
We're incredibly thankful to have friends like Ralph who was able to help in that situation.
Yeah, Ralph really, he came through. Him and his sister came through, and they were able to find a week-to-week hotel that I could help my dad get into. That was very nice. It was like the apartment we were hoping he would get, so that he could, relax while he looked for it. And seeing like the heartbreak on my dad's face, thinking like, I'm fucking homeless right now. That was really hard. I dealt with a lot of anxiety in 2020 like I haven't dealt with it before. I've moved on from a place where in my workplace I'm feeling beat down and like just constantly attacked because I have terrible bosses. I'm in such a healthier place now, but despite that, I've had 2 anxiety attacks in 2020 that have been bizarre for me to deal with. I've always been someone that handles stress very peacefully. At least I don't like freak out about stuff. I try and like figure out steps and plans to do things and to deal with stuff, and to just be sitting around and relaxing, and then all of a sudden thinking I'm having a heart attack and thinking I'm about to fucking die, and thinking like, I don't have stressors right now. I don't know what brought this on. And that's why I legitimately thought when that was happening to me, like, I'm having a heart attack right now. Like, I'm gonna die unless we call someone.
My biggest memory of that was the paramedic calling you a man-o'-lantern.
Yeah, because they had to, I have so much hair on my chest, and they had to put the leads on me, and they're like, your heart is fine. They're like, your heart sounds great. I'm like, all right, that makes me feel a lot better. But like, having my heart race so fast and having like all the symptoms of a heart attack was really terrifying. And the first time I was so relieved, like, oh, thank God, it was just a panic attack. Like, I always thought panic attacks were someone that just got worked up and more worked up and more worked up and more anxious, and then boom, you couldn't control it, you know? But for me, it was like, no, I was just relaxing, unwinding, like not thinking about anything. And it happened twice this year. And the fucking paramedics, the same guy came back the second time, you know, and I was just like, I'm just calling you guys because I don't know what's happening and I can't get my heart to stop. And I don't want to be the person that said like, I ignored it until I almost died I died.
I'm surprised he wasn't like, same time next year.
Right? It was just, and the second time was awful. It was even worse because it was so fucking embarrassing. It was 3 a.m. and these guys showed up to our house, and it was the same dude. And he was like, didn't we do this once before?
He's just like this buff firefighter who's like, hey,
and I'm just
nice
like,
to see you.
Yeah, man, like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I've never had this happen to me before. I never thought I would be the kind of person that would have a panic attack. And, you know, even talking about it with one of my close friends, they're like, oh, well, you're not dealing with stuff properly. It's like, well, yeah, but I'm doing things pretty healthy now, and I'm being very mindful of the things that I do. And they're like, oh, well, you must be fucked up in some way. Like, the judgment that I got from just trying to talk to us, like, people that have panic attacks are fucked up. Don't you realize that? I
think therapists, though, do help.
Yeah, I agree with you. Being able to
talk through issues and...
But I was just like, that's not what's happening here, man. Like, I'm not a broken human. Like, I'm just someone who doesn't know exactly why this is happening to me right now. And I try to take stuff slowly out of my diet that have affected me in various ways. Like caffeine. I don't drink coffee anymore because I'm like, coffee is always giving me heart palpitations. And I think part of the anxiety that I get is like, if I have an arrhythmia or a heart palpitation, all of a sudden I think like, am I having a heart attack? Which isn't a thought I had in my 20s. You know, I'm 35 now. And
now you're a big dude.
I'm a big dude. And I'm like, I don't want to die. So I think that sort of, it's a snake eating its own tail. And it just led to, you know, things that happen. But honestly, it was like, wow, man, I've not felt such judgment from just trying to confide in someone and be open about it and be like, yeah, I had a panic attack. It was crazy. And the way I was instantly judged and basically treated like, oh, well, you're a broken piece of shit. Like, you're fucking crazy. Like, you're not dealing with things the right way.
I'm going to ask you who this was after the episode.
I know you will. And I was just like, no, that's not how I am. And if that's how you feel about people, like, you're kind of a fucking asshole. So, it's just been, that was really, really difficult to deal with. It's like re-examining how I take things in that stress me and how I confront them. It's been like kind of a change in how I deal with things in 2020. So that was pretty fucking rough. And then, of course, you know, COVID and losing family and friends. And
yeah, I did lose my grandma this year, which was crazy because there are things that I'm dealing with personally when it comes to that situation that I don't necessarily want to talk to even my family about because I am just dealing with it myself. But I think that's the hardest part for me, kind of, because that's something that I'd never experienced before in my entire life. So yeah, growth, human personal growth.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of 2020.
2020
dealing with myself.
2020 has been like a self-discovery year in the worst of ways for Robin and I. So I think that's been the hardest part of 2020 for us.
All right. Do you want to roll?
Sure. Wait, you stole my question, so you roll the dice. All right, 18. So we don't do another one in this deck.
It's right. Like, these dice don't like these questions.
So I'm moving on into the last question that I have, and it's, how do you think the show can change going forward? And I ask that because a lot of the patrons or the Patreons I support, they usually have like a board meeting, almost like a public display of like going over like a recap of 2020, like a State of the Union, a recap
5
of each year.
5-year CIP.
What?
That's something we do at work. like a 5-year plan.
Kind of, yeah. But it's like, let's review what happened in 2020 and let's think about what's going to happen in 2021. So I guess it's not exactly a 5-year plan, but yeah, it's similar. But what do you think? How do you think the show can change going forward?
What I want to do in 2021 is tackle the harder topics that I've been putting off because they will take so much research, like Jonestown, like H.H. Holmes, like just the big name, just heavy hitters. I want to knock them out of the park.
Right on. So that's how you think the show should change, is you're going to take on more serious content.
I just want to, instead of me just I feel like this year for me has been a short topic type of year. I didn't do like the season of serial killers like last year. I don't think I did any big heavy hitters this year. And I really want to give you guys more of me.
For me, as far as like the show changing moving forward, I think it's kind of funny because when we used to do Nerd Chills back in the day, like I really enjoyed that format, and I really enjoyed basically doing a news show, which I don't really ever want this show to be at all. And it's interesting too because I covered the monoliths last week, and since then, like 2 more have popped up. I think there's 4 now. There was one in California. Yeah. There's one out here in Vegas now, and that's interesting. And I'll do my recap on that next episode where I talk about just sort of like how human beings responded to the monoliths, which will be fun to do. But
it's funny because like right after that the second one popped up, and I was like, can I commission a monolith for our backyard, please? And then the one in California popped up, and then the one in Vegas popped up, and I was like, no, my backyard.
Like, you guys are getting closer, but hey, still pretty far off. But I guess to answer the question more directly about how the show can change going forward, like, I want more audience interaction. And I was really excited for 2020 to be the year we started doing more meetups locally in Las Vegas.
And then COVID
and
hit.
California, and we had a lot of stuff planned, and we started thinking about doing it still back in October. Like, maybe around Halloween we can have, like, we'll rent out a theater, we'll social distance, and maybe we can support a local theater that we really like. And even then it's like, okay, and now we have family that has COVID-19, and we're not sure if we've been exposed. We're going to have to put these plans on hold, and pushing things further and further out.
I had 7 conventions scheduled for this year.
They all got canceled.
I had so many conventions scheduled for this year. It was going to be such a big year. And maybe that's another big thing that 2020 kind of shit on, is my art dreams.
Yeah, but going forward, I want to really get creative about how we can involve folks more aside from just story time. I like to have story times, and I've said this before, I'd like to have story times where we read creepypastas or we read SCPs, where it's like, we're still telling a story, so it is what story time is. And that'll also help us deal with the fact that sometimes our backlog gets dangerously thin nowadays, where we're pacing ourselves, where it's like, all right, we have, 16 to 20 emails, and we're not sure after 4 weeks time, if we don't get a story in, whether or not we're going to have a story time. And then we get inundated and we're like, all right, we're on 3 months backlog again. Cool. I would kind of like to go through that and just be like, well, how about we do this? We pick a schedule where we can tell stories that we find interesting, similar to how we, like, once a year we'll read like Edgar Allan Poe or whatever,
Yeah.
Like, we can go through and find other works that we could toss onto story time and maybe do something like that. And I really think like the creepypasta thing is fun to do, and SCPs are fun to do because I've never read like any of them, and I would really like to start doing that. And I want to do a lot of more Patreon exclusive stuff because we have some wonderful patrons. We always say we're going to do more and more. And I think that has been exclusively Robin's domain. She's done more and more, but it's more like physical merchandise and designs and things like that. And I definitely want to create more physical content. I have this big fear, and I've always had it, where we're going to create some fucking stellar content that everyone should hear and hide it behind a paywall. You know what I mean? That's always been my biggest fear of doing Patreon exclusive content. And so I'm like, I'm going to come up with some creative ways where we can give patrons something that's only theirs and is fucking awesome. And it will encourage more people to go there. And I'm definitely going to have those ideas ready to go, barrels loaded, for January Patreon push, which is only 24 days away, 25 days away. I know everyone has it marked on their calendar, and then a smaller calendar to the bottom right, it's Christmas and New Year's. Everyone's just waiting for January Patreon push to hit because it's the biggest thing that happens all year, and I'm the same way, so I want to be prepared for it.
I think a big thing of growth in 2020 for our Patreon is I went from hand-making buttons which I still do, but they don't, it's like the badge of honor tier has evolved from just those badges, those pin badges, to now I have keychains for all our badge of honor patrons and above.
Your art has evolved.
Yeah, and I'm just glad that...
You're so much better now than you were before, and you were pretty good before.
Oh, thanks for tooting my horn.
You're welcome.
And I think it's cool that because of all your support, I've been able to upgrade the rewards that you folks get. And the more patrons that we get, the more I can upgrade those rewards. And I just am very thankful that we've been able to grow so much in that way.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't have this one on my question sheet here, but the one I wanted to end on, it occurred to me when I got to this, I'm like, oh, it's not there, is what topic do you want, if you could, to revisit at any point in the future where you're like, I think that one really deserves a follow-up?
I want to do more time travel stuff. It's my favorite topic, and there's a lot out there, you know, and I only chose a couple things. There's more out there.
I want to do a second installment of the Mandela Effect and go over more shit
and you gotta
that you people don't remember correctly, because like 2021 is going to be the year that Adam fights back.
There's
like the podcast strikes back is 2021.
There's some things you got to correct though too, because I think you did something wrong about the Energizer
Yeah, the
Bunny.
Energizer Bunny we were wrong on,
yes.
for sure.
So we
corrected that the next episode.
Oh, we did?
I know you don't listen to our stuff,
yeah,
so you don't know. But it's okay. Maybe 2021 is the year you start listening to your own podcast.
No, I listened to it in the beginning, and then there's a point where I hear my voice all day, and I don't want to hear it anymore. You know?
Imagine hating your own voice and having to edit it. It's even fucking worse. I was playing D&D and I heard my voice come through someone's speakers.
Were you just like...
I immediately was like, I can hear me through your stuff. I don't want to hear me. I don't want to hear me right now. Like, please.
So
please
whenever
do
I'm
that.
in my sister's car, that's what happens. The podcast plays, and I'm like, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. But yeah, no, there's a lot that's coming in 2021.
I'm gonna toss in a bonus question really fast. Pipe dream. If you could have anything for the show specifically, what would you want?
There is something that I want to get for our live streams. It is a video switch that will allow us to swap between a camera 1 view and a camera 2 view. Because I want to be able to have maybe a close-up shot of stupid fucking facial reactions or something.
We're doing either Among Us or scary games or anything like that.
And we can swap between the two cameras.
Camera 1, camera 2.
And so that's something that I really, really, really would like to get for the show, because I everything that we do, we just kind of want to keep improving and keep upping our value, or what is it called? What production value.
We put every dime we make on the show back into the show. So when you see a piece of gear and you're like, that's not too expensive, and it's like, wait, but we pay for it all. With the Scaryish money, it's like, maybe after a few months. Yeah, that would be great to have. I go a little bit bigger than that. I daydream about having an actual studio space.
Oh yeah. Our 10 by 10 is not working out right now.
It's not working out. I just daydream about having a studio with a set where we can sit down, and I daydream about having a fucking producer who sits there and hits record. And while we're recording or while we're doing live streams, I don't have to simultaneously worry about being the producer and marking the episode and checking the levels and troubleshooting live.
I want our own.
That is so hard to do while also trying to do the rest.
I want our own Steven.
Our Steven. I don't know. I equate it to kind of funny. I want our own Kevin who can still be part of it. And
our own Miles Bonsignore.
But he's behind the camera and he's making sure everything's running smoothly. So I daydream about that so much. I go on to websites and I'm like, all right, this is the desk I would want. This is the camera I'd want. This is the tripod I'd want. This is the audio mixer that I'd want. And I go through the whole setup and I'm like, okay, that's a $30,000 dream I should just delete from this cart right now. That's never going to fucking happen. And then sometimes I'll go through and I'll find a cheaper option. I'm like, it's still a fucking pipe dream. We don't have a room in this house we could do that with.
I would also love a free video editor. Does someone want to edit videos? Because
we could put more stuff on YouTube.
We got to put more stuff up on YouTube. We have videos recorded.
It's hard to ask Robin's sister when it's hey, we know you're trying to get your master's.
Yeah, she's trying to get her master's degree, and so it's hard to be like, hey, we need this hours of video cut down. can you do that?
Yeah.
And
can you watch all of it and cut it down to about 15 minutes and also make us look really good?
Yeah,
like, that would
and
be
you know,
great.
add special effects, you know, add these cool, you know, shots. And it's not feasible, you know. So, we're going to try. 2021's going to be the year of try.
Try more. Try hard.
We're going to keep on trying on.
Wow. All right. We've rambled enough. My drink has been half gone, then refilled, and is almost half gone again. So
yeah, my drink's almost gone.
3 years of this is more than I ever thought we would have gotten.
Thank you to everyone who's been around for 3 years. Like, Sam, one of our very first ever to, you know, support us and give us topic ideas, send us stuff. Like, what is it called? Well, topic ideas, recommendations. She's the first one who was like...
It's fan mail. It was one of the first times we had someone reach out to us with an email and say, hey, I listened to your show. And it was like, hey, I listened to your show. I'm from the Isle of Man. And I was like, I've never heard of that place before.
It means the world to us. It absolutely does. Carly's been around with us forever. There are so many of you out there that have been with us since the absolute beginning.
My mom, no joke, earlier today, she's like, oh, I saw that comment on the Spooky Friends group of someone saying like, oh, I listened to the Spanish flu episode and... You know, you made these comments back before the pandemic.
And we're just like, oh, she's a doctor.
Yeah, we're like, oh, yeah, we know. And that's the thing is
because we get to know so many of you through doing live shows, or not live shows, live streams, or chit-chatting with you in our Discord, or it's just so cool to get to know how, like, the lives of our, like, listeners and followers, our spooky fam, you know?
We have very distinctly, for 3 years, never said fans. We've never said fans because... You're like our friends. And it's so weird. Like, we know who Sam is. We know where she started. We know that everyone shipped her and Andrew, and her and Andrew started like talking on the thing. Now they're married. She moved to the States. I don't want to give away too much about them. We've met them in person. You know, we've
met so many of you folks in person, and it's so amazing. We spent whole days at Disney with people, which was so cool. Where Sarah and her husband came out here, and that was amazing. You folks are just
Chris Alton and his wife.
Yeah,
you know, just, there's so many folks that we've met through the show, and even people we haven't met. It's weird because we know your names from our social medias,
we know your faces,
from our Discord, and it's like, yeah, we know these people, like we know them, and it's so weird to say something to my mom like, oh yeah, Captain Fake, I know exactly who she is, you know. Or it's like Glitch is like so much in my life nowadays. It's like one of my close friends, like. I message him just random shit. You know, we talk and it's like, we literally just met through him listening to the show and being very active in the community and him just wanting to like help moderate and help make sure that Spooky Friends, you know, don't get attacked by people during live episodes that are just there to troll.
This is our like Spooky Friends tribute section.
It is, man. And it means so friggin' much to us. It's like that moment when your friend gets drunk and tells you how much they love you.
Oh, you are drunk, aren't you?
I mean, I'm not drunk. I just have had some drinkies.
Okay.
So, no, but seriously, it's like, it means the world to us. And I think that's the thing that keeps moving us forward. There are so many nights where it's like, Robin has had school, especially this past semester, where she had to do homework up until like midnight.
She had to do homework.
I said she had to do homework up until midnight. And then it's like, okay, now that you're done doing homework and you've gotten rid of all that stress you've had all day, where you went to work, did homework, now we can start the research for an episode that we won't probably record until the time it's supposed to come out. And then she can run and go to sleep as soon as we're done recording, which is like 4 a.m.,
I rarely ever actually go to sleep, though, afterwards.
Yeah. And then I'll edit, and I'll get it posted, and then I'll lay down and go to sleep, and I'll wake up like 2 hours later and start work. And like these last 6 months, maybe 5 months for this semester have been like super hard, man. They've been super hard, and
spring semester is going to be round 2.
It's honestly just been like, there's so many nights where like, you want to just quit the show? Like, let's just fucking quit the show. Like, as a joke. Because we're exhausted and we need a break, man. And we're just like, no, we can't. And we sincerely feel like we can't not have an episode. Like, we need to have an episode there because we want the people who want to hear it to have the episode there. So, and the reason we have that happen is because we have so much support. We have these people that have come out of the woodwork. We don't know where the fuck you people came from. And you're just like, you have a great show. We support it and we love you. And we don't hear stuff like that, man. Like in our lives, the both of us haven't had like a ton of support from people in our lives. So.
There have been some shitty fucking comments. Just saying. There have been some shitty reviews, some shitty comments, and
even then, like if you want to look back at how many comments we've gotten that have been negative, it's probably like 8, 9 that I can even remember.
And it just, all your positivity, every single one of you that sends us positive vibes seriously outweighs all those crappy ones that we get.
We have probably gotten close to 100,000 positive comments. Between the emails we get from folks, the messages we get every week during live shows, people reaching out to us on social medias to just say they appreciate the show, and people that like reach out to us like in our own lives. Like, I had a friend who I hadn't talked to in like 6 or 7 months, who I was best friends with, reach out to tell me like, hey, I started listening to the show. I'm really proud of you. I was like, thanks, bro. It was so shocking. So.
You know, and what's funny is I have relatives that I had not talked to in years, maybe a decade, and they were like, I started listening to your podcast and it's actually pretty good. I was like, thank you so much. Right. It's just so nice to kind of reconnect with people and stuff like that and get support from all of you. Thank you so much.
So basically, we started a show so we could talk into the void, and we thought no one would listen to it, and you folks listen to it, and you're the most wonderful people
Hopefully,
on the planet.
if you folks have gotten to this point, it's like an hour in.
It's like an hour and 15 in, probably, with all the editing.
Thank you so much for sticking with us, and we appreciate all of you. So, yeah.
Yeah. So this was the drunk rambling section of the show. I think this is a good spot to stop. We really appreciate all of you wonderful folks. We'll be back to regular topic episodes next week. I think what Robin and I are likely going to do in the near future, we're not exactly sure when, is record a few episode topics in advance so we can have a little bit of a break. You guys won't notice the difference aside from the fact that we won't be making like super topical on the spot references like, did you notice yesterday that insert social commentary from that weekend here? That probably won't be there because we're just going to be like...
It's going to be like,
taking a break.
I've been watching this Korean drama.
Yeah. It's no different than it normally is. It'll be just like when we went to Japan. So, but that's our plan because
Did we have episodes when we went to Japan that we just posted?
we backfilled the episodes and I scheduled everything out. So there's never been an episode missed. So
wow.
We're going to probably do that again just so we can kind of relax and rejuvenate our creative brains here a little bit for the end of the year. So we'll see what happens with it. But thank you so much for your support, everyone. We sincerely appreciate you. We have a Patreon. You guys know that. Patreon.com/Scaryish podcast. We're not going to pimp this stuff too hard because this
is just a chill episode.
The end of this episode is really our love letter to you. So.
Yeah. And if you folks want to get your hands on the new, Krampus charm and magnet, it's Christmas. I'm not giving away, but the Patreon reward for Badge of Honor tier and up this season because 2020 has just been so shitty. I'm actually mailing out 2 things in one package, and it's a keychain, a Krampus keychain, and a Krampus magnet. And the magnet's huge; it's the biggest magnet even sticker that I've done so far. And it's super duper cute. Krampus is maybe sexier than he should be.
He's pretty fucking sexy.
If you want to get your hands on that, you can guys just join us at the $10 tier and up at patreon.com/Scaryish podcast. And there's also a link to if you folks want to order any of the previous merch that we've had for Patreon exclusive stuff. So there's a chance that if you want to do that, you'd only have to join at a $1 tier and you can get the past stuff through that link. So yeah. Yeah.
So much for not pimping it too hard. But
I just think Krampus is hella sexy and he deserves to be
honored,
respected. He wants to be in all your hands.
Wow. So
I've probably been asleep and drinking too much.
Yeah, clearly. But all right, so I sincerely do think that is the end of this wonderful 3-year anniversary episode. Thank you for listening for 3 years. Thank you for supporting us, and I think that's just about everything we have. So, Robin, do that thing that you do, and
I love that movie. That thing you do.
I shouldn't have shown it to you until we started that other podcast, which is woefully slow to get off the ground. But all right, seriously though, sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll see you. In the next year, because it's going to be our 4th year, right? We're going into our 4th year.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Not the new year.
Not the new year, no, but the 4th year of Scaryish.
Yep, correct. All right. I guess that's the fucking sign out this time then.
Bye.
Bye.